Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Nicole Correia, and I am a member of the MEGA CCA team. And I'll be starting things off this afternoon before turning it over to my colleague, Katy Vescio, who is also on here today. Before we begin, a few little housekeeping items. Since this is a webinar and not a Zoom meeting, we will be taking questions through the chat feature. So if you'll see down at the bottom of your screen on the right, you'll see a chat option, and you can send questions directly to myself and the CCA team here so that we can answer those at the end of our presentation. We will do our best to get through as many questions as possible after our presentation and before wrapping up at 1 o'clock. We know that everyone has jobs to get back to and kids to attend to and a beautiful day outside, so we will be sure to wrap things up right at 1 o'clock. This is the first in a series of CCA webinars reviewing important elements of the Community Choice Aggregation Program. If you've attended one of our public meetings or presentations in the past, this will be a review for you. If you are new to learning about CCA, this will be a really good introduction. And then our future webinars will drill down a little bit more into the details of the program and where we're at in the Capital Region. These webinars are designed to help municipal officials, residents, small business owners in New York's Capital Region understand the advantages of CCA. We're going to dispel some common misconceptions and provide information about the Capital Region aggregation as a whole. Slide here. Okay, this is our CCA team. Can you see this? Okay. It's our CCA team. Katy is, like I said, on the line. She'll be presenting in a moment. Annabelle is also on the line today and here to answer some questions for you if needed. She is our energy consultant. And this is our team. If you reach out to us, one of us will be getting back to you and answering your questions. We are here to support the Community Choice Aggregation Program here. So if you have not heard one of our presentations, you might be wondering who MEGA is. We are an aggregator for municipal governments. MEGA is actually a nonprofit local development corporation formed about 20 years ago to help local governments come together to buy their energy, and they found they could get a better deal on their energy needs if they came together to purchase it rather than doing that as individual entities. We operate only in New York State. We are one of 3 CCA administrators currently operating in New York State, but we are the only one that is a nonprofit. We are partnering with the Capital Region municipalities on exploring CCA for their residents. We're here to answer questions, run education sessions, and coordinate the process between all the municipalities. So that's MEGA. What you want to know is, what is CCA? What are we talking about here? I'm going to start very broadly, and then we'll drill down a bit as we go along in the presentation. Very broadly, community choice aggregation is about a group purchase of your electricity. So right now, National Grid purchases your electricity kind of on an individual basis. You don't have the power to go out to the market individually to buy that, to bid for that energy. Through CCA, you and your neighbors increase your buying power by working as a group to purchase your electric supply and to get a bulk price for essentially your electrons. So similar to if you go to BJ's and you want to buy, I used to say, if you want to buy toilet paper in bulk, maybe not so realistic right now, but if you want to buy your granola bars in bulk, you'll get a better price by buying 50 granola bars versus a single one at the register. So same idea, you're getting the power of group buying power for your electricity through this program. There are a few other benefits as well that make this program attractive to municipalities and to their residents. In addition to the group purchase we just talked about, suppliers are bidding to win your business through a competitive RFP process. So you have that benefit of competition between suppliers to give you the best price and the best terms for your electricity. The program also locks in a fixed rate for your electric supply so that you have price stability and budget certainty over a set term. So there won't be fluctuations in the cost of your electrons. At the heart of CCA, it's really about giving you more choices. Generally, you don't have a lot of choices about where your electricity comes from. And if you do, it involves some research and work on your part to figure that out. With CCA, you're just increasing your choices, including an option to get 100% renewable green electricity at a very competitive price. This is very attractive to a lot of the communities in this area. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that further in the presentation. Lastly, the program brings you some protection from predatory marketing practices. Maybe you've seen this at work when you go to Walmart or farmers market. Some energy companies are trying to sell you a program, or someone might come to your door and ask for your National Grid account number so that they can sell you some great deal on your electricity. Some of those companies are great and some aren't, but it's hard to screen and it's hard to know. So through this program, those companies are being screened for you so that you are only going to end up with an energy services company that is really on the up and up and very reputable. There are currently 13 communities participating in the Capital Region CCA. We have the cities of Albany, Schenectady, Troy, Saratoga Springs, Glens Falls, and Watervliet, the towns of Bethlehem, Guilderland, Niskayuna, and New Scotland, and the villages of Altamont, Voorheesville, and Kinderhook. This brings us to a grand total of approximately 90,000 households. A portion of those are small businesses, which gives us a really strong aggregation to go to the market with, really strong buying power when we issue that RFP. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Katy now, who will talk a little bit more in detail about what this means for you and your electric bill.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, so at this part of the presentation, we like to show you an example of a utility bill. This might resemble your National Grid bill at home. And the reason we do this is to explain that community choice aggregation, when we're talking about CCA, we're really talking about the supply portion of your electric bill. So in this example, you can see up at the top, the delivery services are a responsibility of National Grid. National Grid is the utility company and they own the infrastructure that delivers your electricity. In a CCA, they continue to do this. So they are going to continue to bill you for delivery charges. They will respond to power outages, fix down lines, all those things that you've come to expect and experience with a utility company. You remain a customer of National Grid's in a CCA program. The portion of your bill that will change in a CCA program is the lower section there highlighted in blue, your electric supply, okay? And obviously we're only talking about electricity in this presentation. We're not talking about natural gas, so you may have that on your National Grid bill as well. But what I really want to focus on here is the supply cost, okay? And this is a section of your bill that maybe you look at and maybe you don't, but it's only part of what's on your total bill. So currently residents who purchase their supply from the utility company, National Grid, you may find that you purchase from a third-party supplier already. Maybe you've already gone out and procured one. But if you haven't, you're likely going to see this portion of your bill. So we've got a kind of a close-up here of what was on the prior page. Under supplier, it likely says National Grid. So if you have a question about whether you don't know if you're still a customer of the utility for your supply, this is the place where you would go check. All right, so when we look close up at this supply portion of your bill, we've never put this in our presentation before, but we found it necessary to do so because what we're really talking about is changing this part of your bill. So we want to illustrate how it looks now and how it might look differently under a CCA program, okay? You see the first line here, we got 3 lines that are comprising your supply costs. And the first is your electricity supply rate. And in this example, this is just an example bill. It's 3.21 cents multiplied by the number of kilowatt hours you used that month in your home. And you get one component of your supply cost, okay? This varies monthly. All right, but if you're only looking at that number, you're only getting part of the story. Another portion of your supply costs is this merchant function. You might see it abbreviated MFC, merchant function charge. And what this is the fee that you're paying to the utility company for going out and procuring your electricity supply for you, okay? This would go away under a CCA program. Lastly, you see that last line, ESRM. Okay, we get a lot of questions about what this is and what it means. Does it stay there in the CCA program? No, it does not. Currently, if you're a supply customer of the utility, the ESRM is a mechanism that they use to reconcile your supply charges to more accurately bill you for your supply costs, okay? It is a true up, essentially, so that they can correct and reconcile and ensure that they're billing you accurately for the supply that you used, okay? Because of the way that utility companies buy electricity and then sell it to their customers, they need to correct this rate every month to ensure its accuracy. They may have overbilled or underbilled, and so they use this ESRM in order to reconcile your actual charges. You only get a clear picture of your supply costs if you add these three together. And in this example, it's about 5.1 cents total, if you're looking to the column there to the left. Okay, so understanding this is crucial, because if you just glance at your bill and you say, oh, this month I paid 3.21 cents, that's inaccurate. It doesn't take into account these other charges that make up your supply costs. Okay, so we've taken the time to kind of go into this in a little more detail because we found it important for folks who are trying to understand the CCA program and how their bill might change to understand this first. So this is maybe what your supply portion of your bill looks like now. Let's take a look at what it would look like in a CCA. Okay, so I put it in blue so you can see it, and I want to just start off by saying this is not the CCA rate for the Capital Region. I'm just giving you this as an example, all right? Where it had said supplier National Grid, it would now say ESCO Supply Service, or potentially it'll say the name of the supplier that wins the bid. Under electric supply, you're just going to see one charge in a CCA program. So in this example, just an example, it's 5.09 cents per kilowatt hour. This is inclusive of all, fees and other rates. There's nothing else added to this. So this is the price stability and budget certainty that Nicole was talking about. The only factor here on this that would change is how much electricity you use every month. The price is going to remain stable over the course of the program. Maybe 24 months, maybe 18 months. We'll know that once your municipal officials select the terms and the length of the program that they would like. So you're still only receiving one bill from National Grid. It's just this section of your bill that will become simplified and fixed. Okay, so we normally in this presentation provide you with a graphic that's the 7 simple steps to creating a CCA, which is sort of a little bit of a joke, because for those of you who've heard this presentation before or maybe remotely familiar with CCA, it's a bit of a process. But we've simplified it to just explain where we are in this process now. So this presentation is being offered in May 2020, and so we want to give you an update. We want to show you kind of what's coming next in the Capital Region, but roughly these are the 7 steps any community would have to take to create a CCA program, okay? So step 1, your community decides to explore CCA with MEGA. This is a step taken by your municipal officials that they are interested in exploring what CCA would be like in their community. Okay. Step 2 involves education and outreach. This is a 60-day period that we spend, and I know Nicole and I in January and February presented more than 40 meetings in the Capital Region. So each community, and there are 13 communities in this aggregation, received 60 days of education and outreach. Some did it this past winter, others started in the fall, but that step is complete. And the third step, which is the last portion of this, what we're calling phase 1, is that each community that is interested in doing CCA has to first adopt a local law to enable the program to exist in your community. And as of mid-March, all 13 communities had completed and enacted their local laws. Okay, so we finished phase 1 in the Capital Region, and where we are right now, this arrow is showing you kind of the progress we've made to date, and that's a really lengthy process, and it's a big step. So the next step moves a lot faster, but it's an important step, and you'll see why. So the next phase is where MEGA, is the CCA administrator for these 13 communities, goes out and issues an RFP. We want to solicit competitive bids for electricity suppliers to give us pricing and provide options for your municipal officials to consider. The fifth step is identifying the supplier that offers the best price in terms and rate, and also offers not just a price for electricity, but also a price for 100% renewable electricity. And we want to make sure we get a competitive rate that gives your community leaders a good sense of their options so they can make a decision. Phase 2 really ends when your elected officials make the decision. They look at the options that are before them, presented by MEGA, and they decide if they will move ahead and proceed with CCA, or if they do not want to proceed with the program, okay? Phase 3 begins once we know we're going to have a CCA program being offered, and we know the rate, we know the length of the program, and we go out, Nicole and I, you'll see us again, I'm sure, more webinars and in-person sessions if we are able to do that. So that, that's a real priority to really make the rounds in the communities, because then we're not just talking about CCA as a concept, we're actually spreading education and awareness about the program and how it's going to work in each community. And those decisions will be different for each community, but the information will be broadly available for all residents and businesses that are interested. So that's step 6. And the final step is the decision on the part of the resident or the small business owner. Do I want to stay with this program and participate, or do I want to opt out? So the next slide, I'm going to go into a little more detail about the opt-out process and how that would work. Okay, so the opt-out process is a 30-day period. It happens after we provide 60 days of education and outreach. So you'll only get this letter once you've had the opportunity to really learn what the rate is, what the terms and conditions are, what your options are, and decide how you feel about this program. So the letter will arrive in the mail. It'll come on municipal letterhead signed by your chief elected official, and it will explain the default offering, and it will also explain what you need to do to either opt in or stay in the program, opt out, and how you would do that. You could do that by mail, by phone, or going online. The important thing to remember is that even though we have a 30-day opt-out window, you can really opt out of this program at any time. Your opt-out period before the program starts essentially gives you the ability to say, I don't want to join this program ever. I don't want to start in the program. But let's say you do find yourself starting down the program and you join for a few months and you decide it's not for you. You are always eligible to opt out, and there's never a fee or penalty to do that. That's something that we require of the supplier that wins the bid. Additionally, you will have the choice to kind of fine-tune the product that you want to support from your household's perspective. So let's say you live in a town that chooses the default offering of 100% renewable electricity. This means if you do nothing, you will be enrolled in the CCA and purchasing 100% renewable electricity. You can have an option to opt down to a less green mix at a different price, if that's a choice that you as an individual resident want to make. Conversely, if your community you're in, let's say you're in a city and they offer you a default option of a traditional grid mix, which is the minimum clean energy standards that all electricity we purchase from utilities have to meet, but you really want to support renewable electricity, okay? You can have the choice to opt up, all right? So Nicole really underscored that point. CCA is all about choice. So you will have that flexibility as an individual resident to opt in or out, okay? Or opt up or down. So you have the ultimate say in the type of electricity you're gonna buy, essentially. And I'll just underscore, MEGA's rate does not change over the course of the program. So that's a really important thing that customers need to become aware of when they're making their decision. Lastly, I just want to draw your attention to our website. So if you made it to this webinar, you probably have been on our website before. You might have just gotten it forwarded as an email, but I would really encourage all participants on this webinar and friends and neighbors that might be interested in this program, please forward them the link, share megacca.org, you'll find up at the top, if you click on resources, this is where we will be posting the link to this recorded webinar. It's also where you can see previous materials, including short videos about CCA. Maybe you have someone who doesn't want to watch a 30-minute webinar, but they want to get a little more information. There's also frequently asked questions are answered here and a variety of information. So I do encourage you to go there and stay tuned for more information, because as this program develops and we have updates, we will be posting that on our website and on social media. We're on Facebook at Mega Energy NY, so please do look there. Nicole and I and Anna are also always available. So even though this webinar may end and we may or may not, I'm looking at the time here, we've got some time for Q&A. But if we don't get to your question, we will email you. And you can always call our helpline or email our team, and we will get back to you with an answer. We really encourage everyone to ask your questions. We want to have these conversations with you and help everyone in the Capital Region understand what a CCA program is going to look like. So with that, I think Nicole is taking a look at our chat box, and we may have some questions coming in.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Katie. Thank you to everyone who's been sending in questions. We have quite a few questions coming in, so we'll get to as many as we can, but then like Katie said, we will put together an email with the recording of this, as well as answers to additional questions that have come through. And you can always reach out to us directly. And we will be doing future presentations that will dive down a little bit deeper into how CCA works. Let's see, Katie, we have a question about when to expect those opt-out letters, when those would be coming in the mail.
That's a good question. And anyone who was attending a presentation this past winter was told that the opt-out letters would come in June and the program would start in September. Obviously, due to COVID-19, we've experienced some delays. I think everything has. CCA is not canceled. CCA is still moving forward, but we are delayed in the process, that formal phase 2 process. So as you remember from that slide where I showed the progress, the opt-out letters come out towards the end. Phase 2 needs to happen before we know when the opt-out letters will be coming. We imagine we'll be able to move forward with this program later this summer and have it start running before the end of 2020. We're optimistic, but we will definitely keep you posted on when that date will be as soon as we know.
Another question here. Does each municipality in the group have to agree, or could some drop out before the commitment phase? Does each municipality have to do the same, make the same choice?
That's a great question. And the answer is no. Each municipality gets to decide what they want to make as their default offering. First, they'll get to decide if they like the prices at all and they want to proceed with CCA. So they may choose to back away. Those that like the pricing will have to decide which default offering they make available, but 2 municipalities could make different choices. Everyone's going to have the same length of the program. Everyone's going to have the same, start and end dates essentially. So if it's a 24-month program in Bethlehem, it'll be a 24-month program in Guilderland. The question is, and it's up to your local officials, what they want to offer as the default, whether that's 100% green, whether that's some percentage of green electricity that beats the price to beat that's higher than the grid mix, or whether that's a traditional grid mix that meets clean energy standards.
Another question here is, will the fixed rate be more or less than National Grid's rate?
That's a great question. So back when I was talking about that supply portion of your bill. So National Grid cannot offer you a fixed rate. They can offer you a variable price that'll change every month. We are able to offer a fixed rate for this program, and that is predictable, right? What is not predictable is what energy markets are going to do and what the price will end up being on your National Grid bill if you stay with their variable rate. So we know historic pricing, and we can look back on the last year and know that, for example, the CCA program's rate is going to be less than the 12-month trailing average of the supply rate that National Grid offered. We can't predict the future. So we don't know if it will always be less or always be more, but we know that the variable rate with the utility is going to change every month. So on a month-to-month basis, the CCA rate may be less or it may be a little more, but we know that it's a fixed rate, whereas we do not know where electric prices will go in the variable rate market.
Great. I think, let's see, we can do one more question before we wrap up. Let's see, there's one that I wanted to find here that was an early question. There's a question about the program design, about why it's designed as an opt-out program. I think I would just like to kind of point out, I don't know if we mentioned along the way that this program is designed and regulated by New York State. So while we are administrators of the Capital Region CCA, much of the way that it is designed is according to New York State regulations. And we are highly regulated by the Public Service Commission with how we run the program. So the opt-out model is what New York State decided to go with, but it's not something that's up to us to decide.
Yes, CCA is designed as an opt-out program, so not much we can do.
Okay, let's see. Oh, go ahead, Katy, did you?
No, that's okay, I see something.
Okay.
Too.
So that is about, leaves us just enough time to wrap up here.
I will say, I know a lot of the questions are tending towards, kind of what's happening next and will we know more. Mega, as the CCA administrator, is monitoring prices to keep an eye on the market, and so we can best advise municipalities when the best time is to move forward. So it's frustrating. We wish we could give you a date and a time how this is all going to play out, but in the meantime, I would just encourage everyone to stay engaged, stay in conversation with Nicole and Anna and I, and we'll do our best to keep you posted as things develop.
Absolutely, and please do reach out to us. Our contact information up on the screen there. Please do reach out to us with any questions. Our next webinar will be June 3rd at 7 p.m. We'll be providing a bit of a deeper dive into how CCA works and where the program is at right now. And otherwise, we will send out the recording of this webinar with some answers to a couple of the other questions that have been coming in. Okay.
Yes, we'll make sure every question gets answered, even though we're not going to be able to do it within our 30 minutes here. But rest assured, if you've asked a question via Zoom chat, we will get your answer to you.
Absolutely. So we promised we would wrap up by 1 o'clock. It is exactly 1 o'clock on the dot. So thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for your interest.
Thank you.